Hi, I'm Everly. On my 34th birthday, my sister called 911, pretending I was violent. Guests screamed, cops stormed in. She filmed the whole thing and laughed. 2 nights later, my house was on fire. The worst part? My parents told me to apologize. Don't make things worse, they said. So I stayed silent. But what I uncovered after burned louder than the flames ever could. Before we begin, what time are you listening to this? And where from? Drop a comment below, because this story, it's not just mine. It might be yours too. I should have known better, but it was my birthday. Turning 34 wasn't something I wanted to celebrate, not really, but after years of turning down invites, ignoring voicemails, and politely excusing myself from family things, I said yes. I let my parents throw a small gathering, nothing fancy, just a rental backyard setup in Scottsdale, Arizona, with folding chairs and a modest cake. I thought maybe they were trying. Maybe this time would be different. I even put on that soft blue blouse Marlene once said made me look less tired. The sun dipped low as I arrived. The house, tucked in an upscale neighborhood with string lights swaying over a gravel patio, looked deceptively peaceful. But the minute I stepped inside the backyard gate, I felt it. That familiar tension clinging to the air, like humidity before a storm. Callista arrived 40 minutes late, of course. She came in heels too tall for the stone walkway, her phone held high, live streaming as she flounced in. "We made it, loves. My sister's birthday bash. Say hi, internet." She spun around so the phone caught the guests, most of whom didn't know, or didn't care, that they were now part of her content. I stood awkwardly by the drink table. She hadn't looked at me once. Callista was wearing a cream-wrapped dress that clung in all the right places, her hair curled to perfection. She looked like she was headed to a red carpet, not her sister's low-key birthday. She was radiant, loud, effortlessly magnetic, and, as always, completely unaware or just uninterested that the day wasn't about her. Robert, my dad, walked over and patted my shoulder with one hand, his other eye on her. "Look at her," he chuckled, almost in awe. "Doesn't she just light up a room?" I smiled. Thin, polite, practiced. The evening drifted forward like a balloon on a weak string. Marlene checked on the food, refilled Callista's wine glass twice, and handed me a lukewarm slice of cake I hadn't asked for. No one noticed. I barely took a bite. I made a short toast. I said thank you. I meant it. That's when it happened. Callista gasped dramatically. "Wait, something's not right." Her voice cut through the soft hum of conversation. "I think I saw a guy jump the fence." The music paused. A few people stood. Callista's phone was still filming, now aimed at the bushes behind the yard. "I'm calling 911, she said loudly. I stepped toward her. "Cal, what are you doing?" She shushed me. "Hang on, operator." "Yeah, there's a man in the yard. It looks like a domestic thing. Could be dangerous." I blinked. My ears were ringing. "What the hell, Callista?" She hung up and grinned. "Just kidding." There was a beat of silence, then a few awkward laughs from her followers watching the stream. I stared at her, my stomach flipping. 10 minutes later, 2 officers showed up. Sirens off but flashing lights, enough to alert the entire block. The guests stiffened. A few stepped back. One whispered, "Is this for real?" "No, officer," Callista giggled, waving them off like they were old friends. "It was a misunderstanding, just a little birthday prank. They didn't arrest anyone, just wrote up a report and left. But the damage was done. The air soured. Conversation slowed. Some guests left early. I walked inside and locked myself in the bathroom. My hands shook as I opened her live stream. It was still up. The comments were pouring in. "She looks dead inside, LOL. OMG, the sister's face at 15:03. Priceless. Who even invites her to things?" I read them until the words blurred. Then I closed the app and deleted every account I had. When I stepped out, Robert was waiting near the kitchen. "Don't make things worse, he said, like he was offering wisdom. "You know how Callista gets. She didn't mean harm." Didn't mean harm. That broke something in me. Back outside, the cake box someone packed for me sat on the patio table. I grabbed it, said nothing, and walked straight to my car. I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there, keys in my lap, staring at the box. It was supposed to be chocolate raspberry, my favorite. But all I could see was her grin, her phone. That damned spotlight she always dragged with her. My fists clenched in my lap. They always protect her, I whispered. And suddenly I wasn't sad anymore. I was something else. I sat in the car for what felt like a lifetime after that night, hands still clenched, the cake box cold beside me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just drove home with the windows down, hoping the night air would carry the heaviness away. It didn't. 2 nights later, I woke up choking. Smoke. Thick. Chemical. My throat seized before my eyes even registered the haze filling the room. I shot up, disoriented, the sheets tangled around my legs. The fire alarm was screaming above my bed, flashing red like a warning I was too late to heed. I stumbled off the mattress barefoot, coughing hard, one hand covering my mouth, the other reaching in the dark for my phone. The air was growing hotter by the second. Through the haze, I could see flickering light seeping under my bedroom door. I dialed 911 with shaking fingers. "Fire!" I gasped. "I think it's in the kitchen. I'm trying to get out." Toby, my terrier, barked wildly from the hallway. I followed the sound, grabbing his leash off the hook as I passed. The hallway was a tunnel of smoke and shadow, but I pushed forward. I had to. My front door felt miles away, but somehow we made it. The moment I hit the porch, a gust of cooler air hit my face. I collapsed to my knees, coughing, one hand gripping Toby's leash, the other bracing myself on the stone step. He circled me, frantic but unharmed. The neighbors came out fast. Porch lights clicked on one by one like dominoes falling. I heard someone call my name, but my ears rang too loud to answer. Then sirens. Red and blue lights danced across the driveway as the fire truck pulled in. I remember a blanket being draped over my shoulders, a water bottle pressed into my hand. I didn't drink it. The flames hadn't devoured the whole house. The firemen were quick, faster than I'd expected. But the kitchen was gone. My dining nook, the little yellow bench seat I'd reupholstered myself 2 summers ago, was ash. The walls charred, window cracked. The rest of the house? Smoke-scarred, soot fingerprints across the white trim. I sat in the back of the ambulance as the paramedics checked my lungs. I kept staring at the kitchen door from across the lawn. Mrs. Reyes, my 70-year-old neighbor, appeared with a hand-knitted shawl and a concerned look. She bent down, whispering gently, "Mija, I saw someone around midnight. In your backyard." My spine stiffened. What did they look like? Hoodie. Black. Couldn't see the face. But the way they walked. She hesitated. Something about the way they walked away fast, like they didn't want to be seen. I nodded, mouth dry. The paramedic asked me something, but I couldn't respond, because in my mind, I saw it. That saunter, the bounce in the step, the casual arrogance. I whispered it aloud, almost involuntarily. "Callista." Of course I didn't know. Not really. I hadn't seen a face, but something inside me snapped into place. The timing. The way things always escalated when she didn't get her way. When I didn't react the way she wanted. It wasn't an accident. I didn't say anything more. I wasn't going to be the hysterical one. By morning, my parents were standing in my driveway. Marlene clutched her purse like it was holding her breath. Robert stared at the scorched siding, face pinched. Neither one came inside. "I'm just glad you're all right," Mom said. "Really, that's what matters." I nodded. Mrs. Reyes said she saw someone leave the yard around midnight. Hoodie, average height. I think it was her. Robert's brow furrowed. "Her?" "Callista," I said plainly. He didn't answer at first. He turned toward the fire chief, who was talking with a report pad. "Could it have been electrical?" he asked. "Old wiring in the kitchen?" The chief shook his head. "The fire started near the back door, grease accelerant on the floor. Doesn't line up with electrical." I looked at both of them. "It was arson." Marlene gasped softly. "Sweetheart, that's a serious accusation." "You think I don't know that?" "She wouldn't," my mother added, voice rising. "That's not who she is." I took a breath. "You don't even want to consider it, do you?" Robert shook his head slowly. "She's family. Let's not go blaming anyone without proof." There it was. Again. The same damn refrain. "She's family. Don't make this worse." I looked down at my own shoes, covered in soot. then up at my half-burned porch light. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I just stopped. Stopped explaining, stopped pleading, stopped hoping they'd wake up and see what I'd lived with my entire life. They turned to go. My mom placed a hand on my arm, light as a butterfly, cold as glass. "Call us if you need anything." I didn't respond. After they drove away, I walked back into the house. I stepped over broken glass, careful not to twist my ankle on the uneven floorboards. The air still reeked of smoke and something sour, burnt plastic maybe. In the hallway, near the part of the wall that had blistered from the heat, a photo frame lay face down. I picked it up slowly. It was the one from 5 years ago, Thanksgiving at Callista's condo. We were all smiling in that practiced, picture-perfect way, but the fire had warped it. The edge where my face was? Melted, singed, curling up like it was trying to disappear. I brushed ash off the glass and whispered, "You tried to erase me." But I was still here, standing, and now I was done playing silent. There she was, hoodie up, back to the camera. But I didn't need to see her face. I knew that posture, the way her shoulders hunched slightly forward when she thought no one was watching. The bounce in her step that used to drive our ballet teacher mad. Even the slight hesitation, like she expected someone to stop her but knew they wouldn't. It was Callista. I was sitting on the edge of the couch, blanket wrapped around my legs, laptop balanced on my thighs. My lungs still felt raw from the smoke, but I couldn't wait any longer. The fire investigators had left hours ago. They told me they'd be looking into things and to stay available for follow-up. But I'd lived too long in a house where follow-up meant forget it ever happened. So I took matters into my own hands. I clicked back through the footage, frame by frame. The motion sensor on the backyard camera had activated just after 12:18 a.m. The figure appeared in the corner of the screen like a ghost, emerging from the shadows between the fence and the neighbor's hedge. Black hoodie, tight jeans, sneakers with the heels slightly worn down on the left side. The timestamp matched the fire department's estimate almost to the minute. I watched her toss something through my kitchen window, some kind of bottle wrapped in cloth, probably. A flash followed, quick and contained. Then she ran. Not fast, not like she was afraid, but with purpose. And then, at the edge of the yard, she turned. Just enough. There was no sound. But the angle caught her profile, the tight jaw, the high cheekbones, the slight smirk she wore when she thought she'd won. It lasted less than a second. But that second cracked something open in me. I paused the video, then zoomed in. Screenshot. Again. Again. I took notes, labeled folders, created backups. I wasn't crazy. A few years ago, Callista and I both applied for the same regional director role at a nonprofit we'd volunteered at since college. I got the offer. She got the rejection. She told me at Thanksgiving that year, with a champagne flute in one hand and a brittle smile on her face, that she hoped I enjoyed my little crown, because one day I'd watch it burn. We'd all laughed, nervously. But now, it didn't feel like a joke. I debated calling the police, reporting it officially. But I knew how that would go. Dad's business contacts in the city ran deep. He'd always said problems in the family should stay in the family, and anything outside that circle? Well, those calls had a way of getting rerouted or dropped entirely. So instead, I uploaded the video to a secure cloud folder. Then I sent 2 texts, one to Mom, one to Dad, with the same message. "Before I do anything else, I want you both to see this. Watch it. All of it. Dropbox link attached." I sat on the floor, back against the couch, waiting. They replied in less than 10 minutes. "Mom, you need to stop this obsession. Callista would never." "Dad, that could be anyone. Don't throw accusations around. It's not good for you or the family." That was it. No, "Are you okay?" No mention of the fire, no acknowledgement that their daughter had nearly died in her bed just 48 hours earlier. Not even a single question about the footage. Just silence dressed up as scolding. I stared at the phone, my hands shaking, not from fear, but something deeper. A sense of betrayal that didn't scream anymore. It settled in quiet, heavy layers. They didn't care if it was her. They cared if I made it public. Because in this family, survival wasn't about truth. It was about image. And I'd been raised to understand that my role was to keep things from getting ugly, but I was done cleaning up their mess. It wasn't just that they protected her. They needed me to stay damaged so she could keep shining. I was the foil to her glow, the scapegoat to her chaos. And when I stopped playing that part, even for a second, they called it obsession. No more. I didn't cry. I didn't text back. Instead, I stood up, went to my desk, opened my laptop again, and created a new document. Timeline of events. Docs. I typed the date of the fire, the time the motion camera activated, the screenshots I had, each labeled with the time down to the second. I detailed Mrs. Reyes's statement. I noted the type of bottle the figure threw. Everything. It wasn't for them anymore. It was for me. I stared at my screen, the Dropbox link still unread in our family group thread, and I knew. I couldn't wait for them anymore. I couldn't keep giving people time to twist themselves into knots just to avoid seeing what was right in front of them. So I opened Facebook. Not my public profile. Not the one with old coworkers and old college roommates who posted pictures of perfectly packed lunches and weekend getaways. I went to the quieter one, where the family lingered, where the aunts still posted chain prayers and the cousins tagged each other in baby photos. I sat in my robe, hair damp from the shower, staring at the blinking cursor. Then I typed. No emotion, no caps, no hashtags, just facts. Timeline of events. Fire department confirmed call received at 12:27 a.m. Camera detected motion in my backyard at 12:18 a.m. Footage shows individual in black hoodie approaching kitchen window. Object thrown through window at 12:19 a.m. Flames visible by 12:21 a.m. Video frame 12:20:47 shows partial profile matching Callista M. Neighbor eyewitness testimony confirms someone matching height, build walking away from scene. Underneath I added, sometimes silence becomes permission. I've been silent for too long. No tags, no names, just the truth. Then I uploaded the screenshots, grainy but clear enough. I hit post, and I closed the laptop. I made tea, walked to the mailbox, tried not to check notifications, but by the time I poured my second cup, my phone was vibrating like it was about to launch off the table. 56 likes, 12 comments, 5 messages, and that was just in the first hour. By midday, the post had been reshared into 2 neighborhood Facebook groups, then screenshotted into a thread on the local Mesa Reddit board titled, "Is This What I Think It Is?" The comments were pouring in faster than I could keep up. She's always been the golden child. I'm not surprised. I was at that birthday. It was uncomfortable. This makes sense now. That girl borrowed my car 3 years ago and ghosted me for 2 weeks. Wow, I thought she was perfect. Everly, you're brave. I hope you're safe. I sat in silence, eyes scanning the flood of words, some from strangers, some from people I hadn't heard from in a decade. Some came from family, quiet cousins who had always stayed neutral. This explains so much. I'm sorry, oh. I never said anything, but I saw things growing up too. Part of me felt like I could breathe again. And yet, something inside tightened. Was this too much? Had I crossed a line? Then the ping came. Callista. She didn't reply to the post, didn't comment. She went to Instagram instead, where her curated life unfolded in filtered pinks and soft lighting. Her post? A burning candle lit in a dim room, captioned simply, "Sometimes people twist the truth when they're hurting. Pray for them." And in the comments, "Sending you love, girl. People always try to tear down those who shine too bright." You don't have to say anything. The truth speaks for itself. She was turning it around, not with anger, with aesthetic, with passive-aggressive lighting and faux vulnerability. She was making herself the victim. I didn't respond. I didn't repost. I didn't comment. Instead, I set up my tripod. My kitchen still smelled faintly of smoke. I walked into the blackened corner of the room where the cabinets were blistered and the walls were warped. I hit record. No makeup, no angles, just me and what was left of the place I'd called home. I looked straight into the camera. "My name is Everly," I said. "I'm not suing anyone. I'm not naming names. I'm not asking for sympathy." I turned slightly, showing the scorch marks behind me. I'm standing in front of my kitchen, what used to be my kitchen. A pause. "I'm not angry anymore. I'm done pretending. This is what happened. These walls speak louder than I ever could. Then I clicked upload. I didn't expect it to go viral. I didn't care if it did. But within hours, local community pages picked it up. Then a small local news station asked if they could use the clip. My inbox lit up again. But this time, it wasn't just messages. It was stories. People I'd never met shared things about their own sisters, their own mothers, the times they'd been gaslit into silence. It wasn't just about me anymore. Late that night, I was scrolling through the latest comments when one stood out. Your silence used to protect them. Now your voice is protecting yourself. I let the words settle. Then I closed my laptop. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just whispered, finally. 3 quiet mornings passed. No more calls. No new posts. I even started to believe maybe, just maybe, Callista had run out of ways to strike back. Then came the knock at the door. It wasn't aggressive. Just 2 sharp taps. I was folding laundry on the couch, TV on low, still wearing the same t-shirt from the night before. I opened the door and found a man in a gray polo holding a thin envelope. No badge, no delivery uniform, just a clipboard and a polite nod. Delivery for Everly Hartwell? I took the envelope. Have a good day, ma'am, he said, already turning back to his car. I closed the door slowly and stared at what was in my hands. Legal stationery. Her name printed top right, Callista M. Hartwell, followed by the name of a local attorney I didn't recognize. My hands began to sweat. I sat down without even meaning to. I peeled it open. 3 pages, all neatly formatted. Cease and desist. It accused me of public defamation, online harassment, and causing emotional and professional harm. I was ordered to remove my posts immediately or face legal action. The phrasing was sharp, sterile, and, ironically, threatening. I read it again, then again. By the 4th read, I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. All I could think was, she actually hired someone to make me afraid. The letter didn't deny the fire. It didn't dispute the footage. It didn't even offer her side of the story. It simply threatened me. If I didn't take it all down, they'd pursue damages to the fullest extent permitted by Arizona civil law. I sat there, letter trembling in my lap, heart thudding somewhere between fear and rage. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. I really tried. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw my kitchen lit up with flames again. And now I saw a courtroom, too. A judge, a gavel, and me being dragged across the floor all over again. The next morning, I drove across town to the small law office where Uncle Jared had referred me years ago when I was switching jobs. It was barely 9 a.m., and I hadn't touched food in 20 hours. My attorney, Daniel Kerrigan, looked at the pages in silence. He flipped through slowly, his expression unreadable. Finally, he looked up at me. "There's nothing here," he said gently. "No standing. This is bluff. It's bullying wrapped in stationery." I opened my mouth to respond, but no words came. Just a long exhale that felt like it carried every ounce of the past week with it. "She wants me scared," I murmured. He nodded. "And if she couldn't do it with fire or lies, she's trying paperwork." I thanked him and left. I didn't even remember the drive home. I dropped my purse by the door and walked straight to the couch. I laid down, arms crossed over my chest, eyes fixed on the ceiling fan spinning above me. I didn't move for what felt like hours. When the phone rang that evening, I didn't even check the caller ID. I knew the voice before it said a word. "Everly, it's Dad." His tone was flat, not cold, but carefully measured, like someone talking through a locked door. "I just wanted you to know. Callista's hurting too." I didn't answer. "She says you've gone too far, that this is turning into something public and vindictive." "She set my kitchen on fire," I whispered. There was a pause. "Look, we don't want this turning into some family war. We just want things to calm down." "She hired a lawyer, Dad. She's protecting herself." I hung up, no shouting, no tears. Just the kind of stillness that happens when the storm has already passed, but the ground hasn't stopped shaking yet. That night, I didn't post anything new. I didn't rant or respond or write a public letter. I went back to my original post, the one with the footage, the facts, and added one line at the bottom. "Legal letters don't erase video footage, and neither does silence." I clicked Save Changes, and something unexpected happened. That line caught on. Within 2 days, it had been screenshotted, reposted, and turned into a hashtag in several community forums. The silence is not peace people began using it under their own stories. Abuse survivors, whistleblowers, people who'd kept secrets to keep families intact while they fell apart inside. It wasn't just about me anymore. Later that week, while walking down the hallway past the family photo wall, I noticed the gap again. The frame that used to hold a picture of all of us, arms linked, fake smiles in matching sweaters. I paused. Then I turned, opened a drawer in my side table, and pulled out a photo I'd printed after that video went viral. It was me, standing in front of the charred cabinets, back straight, hands calm at my side. I placed it in the empty frame. I stepped back. It didn't match the others, not in tone or color, but it felt honest. I wasn't trying to fit anymore. I didn't want an apology. I wanted truth to breathe. That night, for the first time since the fire, I slept. Not deeply, not long, but peacefully. I was halfway through folding a load of towels when I heard it, the kind of knock that doesn't wait for permission. Hard, fast, angry, thud, thud, thud. I looked up from the laundry pile, heart stalling. For a second, I thought maybe it was a delivery. But then came the voice, muffled through the front door but unmistakable in tone. "Open the door, Everly, I'm not playing." Callista. The last time I heard her voice that close, it was at my birthday party, laughing through a live stream while officers questioned me in front of my guests. I moved slowly to the door, stopping just before reaching it. Through the peephole I saw her, hair wild, eyeliner smudged like she hadn't slept, wearing a hoodie that hung off her shoulders like a cape of chaos. "Open the damn door! Now!" she shouted again, pounding harder. A neighbor across the street had come out onto their porch, coffee in hand. Another peeked through blinds. The whole block didn't need a flyer to know drama had arrived. I unlatched the chain and cracked the door, just wide enough for my voice to pass through. "What do you want?" She tried to shove it open, but I leaned into the frame, holding my ground. "We need to talk, now," she hissed. I didn't move. "Then talk, right here. You think you can ruin my life and just hide in here like some righteous victim?" I kept my expression still. "What I think is that you set my kitchen on fire. What I know is I have it on video." She scoffed. "You always thought you were better, always acted like you were the sane one, the mature one." I didn't blink. "No, I've been quiet. That's not the same thing." "You think you're the victim?" she snapped. "I am the victim, and for once I'm not apologizing for it." Something in her cracked right then. Her eyes flashed, and she turned away from the door abruptly. I watched her march down the front steps, across the gravel path, and toward the side of the house. I stepped outside quickly, phone already recording. My hand wasn't shaking this time. She yanked the garden gate open so hard it slammed against the side fence. I followed at a distance. In a flurry of movement, she began grabbing the flower pots I'd lined along the walkway, gifts from Mrs. Reyes, some I'd painted with my niece last year, and hurled them one by one onto the patio. Shards of ceramic flew across the flagstones. "Callista!" I yelled, but she wasn't listening. Then she turned to the porch. The old wind chime, glass and metal and delicate, that our mom had given me when I bought the house. It was the only family gift I hadn't packed away or burned. She reached up and yanked it down. It shattered against the concrete like it had never been whole. I took a deep breath and called the police. Not out of revenge, not even out of fear, just to mark the moment, to document it, officially. When they arrived 10 minutes later, she was pacing near the mailbox, arms folded, face red with rage. "This is my sister," she shouted as they approached. "She's just trying to make me look crazy." The officer's expression didn't change. "Ma'am, we're not here to judge, but your actions caused property damage and disturbed the peace. We're issuing a citation. You'll need to appear in court." "I swear you're going to regret this, oh," she screamed as they walked her toward the squad car, not arrested, but forced to sit while they wrote the report. I watched from the porch, arms crossed, heart like stone. I didn't flinch when they left. Later that night, my phone rang again. I let it ring twice before answering. "Everly," my mother's voice, tired, edged. "Why didn't you just talk to her? You called the cops on your sister." I closed my eyes. "Because she's not just my sister. She's a threat. And I'm done pretending she's not. She exhaled, long and sharp. You two are tearing this family apart. No, I said, you let her do that years ago. I'm just not cleaning up the pieces anymore. I hung up without waiting for a reply. No shouting, no dramatics. Just a clean break. A quiet kind of severing. That night, I plugged in my external hard drive and started backing up every file, photos, videos, posts, letters, emails, everything tied to this unraveling, just in case. The next morning, I stepped outside to sweep up the mess on the porch. The broken wind chime lay in pieces. I picked up a few shards and ran my fingers over them. No sound, just silence. And somehow, that said everything. The knock on my porch hadn't even faded from memory when her next move hit the internet like a wildfire sparked in dry brush. I was finishing up a spreadsheet in the kitchen, trying, unsuccessfully, to keep life normal, when a friend from high school messaged me, "Hey, have you seen this post going around? Someone's dragging you and it looks serious." My stomach clenched before I even opened the link. There it was. A burner account, but the tone was unmistakably Callista's. The post was a collage of weaponized fragments, old medical paperwork, half-redacted screenshots from therapy notes, and a photo of me 10 years ago, pale and dazed in a hospital gown after a panic attack. I had never shared that photo with anyone. Not even family. The caption? Some people have patterns. Just connect the dots. No names, but plenty of nods. Enough that anyone in our circle could draw the lines she wanted drawn. I sat frozen. My hands hovered above the keyboard, useless. My breath came shallow, irregular. The post had already been shared 67 times. The comments were a swirling mess of speculation, pity, and casual cruelty. Didn't she burn her own house down? She always seemed off, too quiet. I knew her sister, said she had episodes. It wasn't shame I felt. It was fury. And something colder, something that hummed like a current beneath my skin. This was what she'd been planning. Not an apology, not a conversation, an execution. And then, as if the universe couldn't bear it another second, something broke through. A new video popped up in a private local forum. The title was simple, Callista, Unfiltered. It was grainy, clearly taken from a party, a group of young adults, red cups in hand, music in the background. And right there in the center, Callista, perched on a couch, giggling as someone handed her a drink. She looked directly at the person filming and said, "My parents would bail me out of murder if I asked. All I have to do is cry a little." She laughed harder, added, "Everly? She's invisible. Just the placeholder kid while they waited for the real one. Me." The audio wasn't doctored. It was unmistakably her voice, that flippant cruelty layered in silk. The thread exploded. Comments poured in. Outrage, disbelief, people tagging each other, pulling receipts. One of her former interns posted, "This checks out. I left her studio in tears more times than I can count. She thrives on crushing people quietly." I didn't speak. I didn't write a new paragraph or upload a new photo. I simply reposted the video with a single sentence. She said it, not me. And then I walked away from the screen. No follow-up. No damage control. That afternoon, I left the house to grab groceries. The air was crisp for Arizona, touched with that rare kind of breeze that hints at change. As I pushed my cart through the frozen aisle, a woman tapped my shoulder. I turned, bracing myself. She looked to be around 50, her eyes kind. "You're the one from the video, right?" she asked. I just wanted to say, "Thank you for not letting people like her keep winning." I didn't know what to say, so I nodded, just that. A nod that said, "I'm still here." When I got home, the post had been reshared over 1,000 times, but I didn't check the comments. I made myself tea. I fed the dog. I did a load of laundry. And then I sat on the porch, phone off, watching the late afternoon light stretch across the gravel. For the first time, the silence around me didn't feel like defeat. It felt like power. The envelope came just after sunset, a knock, a delivery, and the heavy silence that always followed something irreversible. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was confirmation. The court date was set. It was real now. 3 weeks later, I stood outside the courthouse in Mesa, Arizona, my palms open, steady at my sides. I didn't wear anything dramatic. Just a navy dress, flats, and the small wind chime pendant my niece had once given me, now hanging around my neck like a reminder. I'm still standing. Inside, it was colder than I expected. Not in temperature, but in tone. Sterile, quiet, all tension humming beneath the polished floors and polite murmurs. No one makes eye contact in rooms like that unless they have to. Callista arrived 10 minutes late, disheveled, tired. Her hair looked like she hadn't brushed it since the news coverage broke. She wore designer sunglasses inside and clung to her attorney's sleeve like it was a life raft. Behind her, our parents trailed in, Robert with shoulders slumped, Marlene clutching a tissue already damp. I didn't speak to any of them, didn't wave. I just sat down in my row and waited for the gavel. When the judge finally entered and called the case, everything else dropped away. This was no longer personal. It was official. The prosecution moved quickly. Security footage played. Callista, hoodie pulled tight, walking along the side of my home before the flames. The timing, the digital trail of her login to the burner account that posted my therapy notes, and finally, the video, the one where she laughed about being untouchable. She didn't look so untouchable now. Her attorney tried to argue context, stress, trauma, but it didn't land. Not when the timeline was laid bare, not when the paper trail was that clean. Then the ruling came. Sufficient evidence for formal criminal charges of arson and defamation. We will proceed to trial. Twist S15, delivered not with drama, but with cold, simple weight. Callista stood up. "You're ruining everything," she snapped. At me, at the judge, at the entire room. Her voice cracked, not from grief, but fury. "You're all blind." The bailiff asked her to sit. Her lawyer tugged gently at her elbow. But she just stood there, shaking. I didn't move. She'd wanted me to fall apart in public. Now it was her turn. I glanced sideways then, at our father, Robert, the man who raised us to always protect the family image, who used to smooth his tie before answering even the most innocent questions. He wasn't wearing a tie today. His jaw was locked, but he looked older, fragile, a shell of the man who used to lecture about standards. And when court adjourned, the vultures were waiting. Reporters were camped outside. The moment he stepped into the sunlight, cameras snapped and a voice rang out. "Mr. Winslow, you served on the city board for 17 years. How long have you known your daughter was capable of this?" He didn't answer, just froze. And in that pause, just 2 seconds long, his legacy cracked wide open. Twist S16 had arrived. Not in an outburst, but in silence that would stain everything he'd built. By that evening, it was on every local feed. Respected civic leader faces daughter's arson fallout. Family secrets behind the courtroom doors. But I wasn't watching the coverage. I was home, barefoot in my kitchen, well, what was left of it. Burned walls, blackened tile. And then came the knock. It wasn't Callista. It was my mother. She didn't say hi. Didn't cry, just walked to the half-demolished counter and ran her fingers across the ash-streaked edge. "I don't know how we let this happen," she whispered. I didn't offer comfort. I didn't offer blame either, just said the one thing that had been circling in my chest for weeks. "You didn't let it happen," I said quietly. "You watched it happen." She didn't argue. That night I returned to my porch. Alone, but not lonely. I had purchased a new wind chime the day after Callista shattered the old one. I hung it from the same rusty hook. The breeze caught it gently, a soft metallic ring humming into the air. Etched in small cursive on the bottom, "Still here." Sometimes what comes after the storm isn't peace, it's the quiet. And the quiet can be its own kind of weight. 2 months had passed since the courtroom, since Callista's public unraveling, since my mother's words landed like late confessions in the middle of my burnt kitchen, since I stopped holding my breath every time the doorbell rang. The house was almost whole again. The kitchen no longer smelled like ash. It was painted soft cream with deep green cabinets I chose myself. Light streamed through the new window above the sink, catching in the glass jars I'd finally unpacked. I had planted lavender along the back fence. It was blooming now. There was no apology tour, no reunion, no grand declarations, just mornings that belonged to me again, and silence that no longer felt like surrender, but choice. On a Thursday afternoon, I was sorting through the mail when I found it. A cream envelope, handwritten, the letters uneven and familiar. It was from my mother, I didn't open it right away. I left it on the counter for a full day. Then, after finishing my tea the next morning, I sat down and slid a knife through the flap. Inside, a single page, no preamble. "I don't know how we didn't see you," she wrote. "I know it's late, maybe too late, but I see you now. I'm sorry for letting the noise around Callista drown you out for so long." There was no request for forgiveness, no invitation to talk, just a soft admission, one I'd begged for my whole life, and now, when it came, I didn't cry. I folded the paper neatly and placed it in the drawer beneath the silverware. "Too little, too late," I whispered. But I didn't tear it up. Callista had taken the plea. She was sentenced to 300 hours of community service, mandated counseling, and financial restitution. Her social media was gone. Her name was a whisper now, not a headline. And still, no gloating, no bitterness, not anymore. I didn't need her downfall. I just needed my air back. That weekend, I hosted a small gathering in my yard, just the women from my trauma support group. We sat in folding chairs, passing lemon bars and stories, laughter catching on the wind like old hymns. One of the newer members, Alice, handed me a small gift bag near the end. "I saw this and thought of you," she said. Inside was a wind chime, delicate, silver, and nearly identical to the one Callista had shattered months ago. This one had small etched leaves around the base. I turned it gently in my hands. "I used to think silence was how you survived," I said to no one in particular. "Now I think it's how you begin again." The group fell quiet. Not awkward silence, but shared stillness, like they understood the language I was learning to speak. Later that evening, after the last guest had left and the dishes were done, I walked through my home. Every room felt new, but familiar, my own. I paused in the hallway where the family photo wall used to be. It wasn't filled yet, just 2 frames, one of me in front of the rebuilt kitchen and another, a candid from the yard that afternoon, laughing mid-sentence. I stood there for a moment, breathing in the air that was finally mine. Not borrowed, not fought for. Just mine. Then I turned toward the living room, opened my laptop, and hit record. The screen glowed in the dim light. I didn't script it, didn't rehearse. I just spoke. "To anyone who was ever told to stay quiet for the sake of peace," I said, my voice even, "just know, peace that asks for your silence isn't peace, it's control." I paused. "My name is Everly. I survived, and I'm still here." I closed the laptop and leaned back in my chair. Outside, the new wind chime danced in the night air. It sang softly, steady, whole.